I've entitled my message today, Journey Ahead. We live in a difficult time, challenging times. In the years to come, it's likely to get even more difficult and more challenging. That's why we as a congregation have been very intentional in trying to put together a 5-year plan to be prepared for where God is leading us. We're trying to be prepared, but we'll only be prepared if we realize that it is God that has to direct us. Are you prepared? Do you have the stamina and the strength to face the demands of life? It gets difficult when things don't go the way that we hope or expect. And that's what's happened for the people of Israel and Judah. They end up in exile and they lost hope because they had believed that God was their protector, and all of a sudden they're in exile. It became a crisis in faith. But here the prophet is trying to remind them that there is hope for the future, that God has a plan for them, and it is a plan that has hope for the future of the people of Israel and the people of Judah. Dale Pilgrim writes this: life is a journey towards God, toward home, toward heaven. And if we're not focused on that, then life is just one long, bumpy ride to nowhere. Also, Paul tells us to keep alert. In other words, to be awake, to be woke, woke to the injustice of the world, to be woke for the movement of God. Sadly, the phrase being woke has negative connotations in our society. We've used it as a way to attack people and to dismiss what people are saying. But here is the truth. We are called to minister to the marginalized, to seek justice, to love mercy. The Reverend Kramer says using woke as a condemnation is such an odd thing for a Christian. Are we not taught to be awake and alert to the movement of God? Are we not taught to be awake and alert to injustice? Are we not taught to be awake and alert to the needs of the poor and the vulnerable? That's what happened to the people of Israel and Judah when they ended up in exile. They had forgotten to be awake to the vulnerable. They had forgotten to take care of the poor, the strangers, the widows, the orphans. They had forgotten to take care of the people that society has marginalized. So the Apostle Paul says, be alert, be awake. In other words, be woke. He goes on to say that um, we need to stand firm in our faith. What does that mean? What would Jesus do? What does it mean to be a follower of Jesus? It means to be Christ to each other. God is love, and we are called to love people. Not just our family, not just our friends, not just our church community, not just other Christians, but to love the world, to love our neighbor. In the New Testament, when a gentleman questions Jesus about the commandments, and Jesus points out that we are to love our neighbor, he asks the question, who is my neighbor? And interesting, Jesus uses the Samaritan as the example. The Samaritans were not liked by the Jewish people. In fact, they were hated. At one point, the Jewish people burned down the temple of the Samaritans. And yet Jesus uses the Samaritan, ministers to a Jewish person as loving his neighbor. Paul goes on to say, be courageous, be strong. It's not easy when the world around us is telling us something different. See, we've acted as if somehow our faith is under attack. What is really being under attack is our failure to be Christ to the world, to love the poor, the widow, the stranger, the marginalized, those who society has forgotten. It's a reminder that what we have to do is done in love, not in fear, not in anger. How we respond is the most important thing when the situations are difficult. When you're faced with challenges, we need to be a mature Christian, an adult in the faith, and step up, not to flinch, to be strong, with strength that is found in Jesus Christ. Ephesians says, be strong in the Lord and the strength of his might. Don't be surprised when the storms hit in life, because they do. And it would be irresponsible for us to tell you that everything is always going to go smoothly. We need to be prepared. And if you're not prepared, you'll be constantly caught off guard, stressed, and unable to live and to work as God intended. You will not be able to experience the power and the peace that the Lord provides. In the middle of trouble, people will run everywhere for refuge. But refuge is found in our God. And sometimes God doesn't calm the storm, but instead calms the person in the storm. People in exile were still in exile, but they found hope that it would not always be so. And so we need the equipment to be ready, to be prepared. We need equipment for almost anything we do. To repair a car, we need a certain set of tools. To replace a broken screen door on the house, we need a different set of tools. To play tennis, we need a certain kind of gear. To hike the mountains, we need something else. When we leave on vacation, we usually take all the equipment we think we'll need while we're away. Just so, if we want to do God's will on our journey through life, we need to take all the right equipment with us. Paul reminds us to be prepared, and that starts, first of all, with prayer. Travel on your knees. Here's a poem that's actually entitled that, Travel on Your Knees. Last night I took a journey to land far across the seas. I didn't go by boat or plane. I trusted on my knees. Paul says in almost every letter that we need to be a people of prayer, that he is praying for whoever he's writing to. In this poem, we're reminded, as it goes on, that you pray and God will meet your need. You call and he will hear. The Lord is right by your side while you're traveling on your knees. So what do you need to do? You need to keep alert, to be woke, to stand firm in your faith, to be courageous, to be strong. Let all you do be done in love. There's a story that many years ago, a shabbily dressed boy trudged miles through snowy streets of Chicago, determined to attend Bible classes that happened to be conducted by D.L. Moody. And when he arrived, he asked, why didn't you come to a Sunday school so far away? Why didn't you go to one of the churches near your home? And this was his answer. Because you love a fellow over here. Let what we be done in love. It makes a difference in people's lives. But love can be costly. Being a follower of Jesus means recognizing and trusting in the Lord as the true source of protection, rest, and strength in the midst of the storm. Strength is found and shelter is found in Jesus. Psalmist writes, the Lord is my strength, my shield, my heart trusts in him, and he helps me. The Lord is the strength of his people. Another psalm says, "O Lord my God, in you I do take refuge. Save me from all the pursuers and deliver me." Our journey in life is short. An elderly woman got on the bus and she sat down. And at the next stop, a strong, grumpy young woman climbed up, sat down beside the old woman, hitting her with numerous bags. When she saw that the elderly woman remained silent, the young woman asked her, "Why did you not complain when I hit you with my bags?" The woman replied with a smile, "There is no need to be rude or discuss something so insignificant, as my trip next to you is so short, because I'm getting off at the next stop." The answer deserves to be written in gold, to be highlighted. There is no need to discuss things that are so insignificant because our journey together is short. Each of us must understand that our time in this world is so short that darkening with useless arguments, jealousy, not forgiving others, discontentment, and bad attitudes are ridiculous waste of our time and energy. Our trip together is short. Share your smile, share your love with everyone. Prophet Isaiah says, "He gives power to the faint. To him who has no might, he increases strength. Even youth shall faint and grow weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But those that renew their strength in the Lord, they shall mount up wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." First time that I really came across this passage, I was actually working a night crew at Loblaws, putting myself through school. And I had been asked to go down to a youth conference. I was at the time the vice president of Ottawa, which was the Ottawa Baptist Association of Youth, and I was going to soon become president. And I didn't know how I was going to get through it. I literally had worked all night, left work at 8 o'clock in the morning, caught a bus at 9 o'clock, and headed to Aurelia for this conference. Not knowing what to do, I simply opened my Bible, and guess what passage I came to? He gives power to the faint. He increases strength. Even youth shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. I was exhausted. I was in my 20s at the time. But then it goes on to say, "If you wait upon the Lord, he shall renew your strength. You mount up wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." And I found the strength to not only go to this conference, but to be an active member and participant in it. So the Lord calls you to himself. He seeks to make you strong in the midst of the storm. He does not want you to faint on the day of adversity. Trust God in his strength. Apostle Paul says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I shall boast all the more gladly of my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weakness, insults, hardship, persecutions, calamities, for I am weak, then I am strong." Paul is able to write this as he's imprisoned. He knows his journey is short. But instead of focusing on fear and anger, he focused on his love of God and his love of the church and his brothers and sisters in Christ. It's a poem called "The End of the Journey." Light after darkness, gain after loss, strength after weakness, crown after cross, sweet after bitter, hope after fears, home after wandering, praise after tears, sheaves after sowing, sun after rain, sight after mystery, peace after pain. Joy after sorrow, calm after blast, rest after weariness, sweet rest at last. Near, near after distance, gleam after gloom, love after loneliness, life after tomb. After long agony, rapture, bliss, right was the pathway leading to this. Jesus, talking to his disciples, said, I have come that you might have life and have it to its fullness, have life abundantly. So let's let our journey be one where we are a people of prayer, where we are alert, firm in our faith, and let all that we do be done in love as we set out on this journey for this next year. Amen.